When Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act to deal with the convoy that had taken root in Ottawa, a lot of leading experts said this is wrong. The threshold has not been passed to introduce this act, an unprecedented decision for our nation. That was said by the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, by the Canadian Constitution Foundation, and a number of professors and independent experts. They were really aghast that this had been done. But the Liberals and their defenders said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll solve the issue during the inquiry. We'll talk about all this then. Because when you bring in the Emergencies Act, part of the rules stipulate that after you've brought it in, you're mandated to have an inquiry to look into all of the events surrounding it and whether or not it was a proper thing to do and just investigate the whole issue. Justin Trudeau has waited until the last possible day on Monday to announce, yes, there's going to be a commission. And here's how he describes it. He says, the commission will examine the circumstances that led to the declaration being issued and the measures taken in response to the emergency. Now, that's pretty much the wording from the law, so okay, fair enough. But then Justin Trudeau goes on. In this letter, they say, this includes the evolution of the convoy, the impact of funding and disinformation, the economic impact, and efforts of police and other responders prior to and after the declaration. Now, Justin Trudeau says that this is an independent inquiry. It's going to be headed up by Paul S. Rouleau. He's going to be commissioner of this commission. Justice Rouleau, as the press conference says, 20 years of experience on the bench to the role. He was first appointed as a justice of the Superior Court of Ontario in 2002, then the Court of Appeal for Ontario. He's got a lot of expertise. Let's hope he exercises his independence doing this, because the way Trudeau has written this, it looks like he's predetermined the outcome. Because those other things I read there, the evolution of the convoy, the impact of funding and disinformation, it's pretty clear that Trudeau wants to play partisan games here, and that he himself and the Liberal cabinet, they would prefer, I guess, to spread their own disinformation, misinformation, their own flat-out lies. Because there were so many things said about the convoy that we later learned just weren't true. The idea that it was basically almost entirely funded by foreign funding, not accurate. We heard other bizarre claims out there that convoy participants, they had attempted to burn down an entire apartment building in downtown Ottawa. That was implied by a number of journalists. Later found out that there was an unfortunate incident that occurred that had nothing to do with people in the convoy. Justin Trudeau put out that famous tweet saying that everyone participating in the convoy was racist and homophobic and transphobic and sexist. He threw in every word he could think of in that tweet. And then people turn on the images and they see diverse persons from all walks of life dancing to music and kids playing on bouncy castles. And they go, wow, this guy really set out to just dehumanize everyone participating in the convoy there. A lot of things said by the Liberal government, by cabinet ministers, that was not correct. Is that going to be litigated? It was a major thing in our nation to bring in the Emergencies Act for the first time when experts said it shouldn't be done. Now, the Emergencies Act was to replace the War Measures Act, which had been brought in 3 times before in, well, World War I, World War II, and then in the October crisis. And the whole reason they brought in a new legislation, because the October crisis in 1970, it was seen, well, that's not like World War I or World War II. Were you justified in doing that? And now we're facing a scenario where the convoy, well, is even less of a justification. And yet he's brought this in, and Trudeau does not acknowledge that one thing the commission should of course be doing, in fact, the key thing that they should be doing, because this is what all the experts were saying, was whether or not Trudeau was right to do this incredible thing to our nation, invoking this thing which gave them so much discretion, allowed the Liberal government to freeze people's bank accounts, so many powers they could do there in that interim period, stuff that people said, wow, this is like authoritarianism. Should this even be acceptable in Canada? And that's what the commission should be looking at. Was it acceptable what the Liberal government did? Did the issues that they face, whatever your politics, whatever you thought of the convoy, if you lived in Ottawa, maybe the honking drove you crazy, but did that justify these extreme things that the Liberals did? That is what the commission should be looking into. And yet this release that Justin Trudeau has put out seems like they want to dodge all of that and they want to keep playing partisan games. Let's hope the judge leading this up says, no, that's not how we're going to do it. And let's hope there's full public accountability for this whole process, because Canadians deserve it.